Steve, how would you suggest aspiring leaders position themselves in the employee experience space?
I think the first thing they should probably do is kind of start to play with it. And I think that is it. I don't think there's anything stopping anyone from being an EX leader. It's fundamentally human, and we can do it within the context of most jobs. Obviously, if you break away from it and you want to be the specialist in the space, and you want to I don't know, drive EX for the business, the first thing you're going to have to do is be part of it. And that is probably as a recipient of a process, and that can be within anything you're doing. Even if you're a billing clerk, you can get exposure to creating a different experience. There's a massive link between customer experience and employee experience. And obviously we've excelled a lot in the space of customer experience, and those skills and techniques are valid in the employee space as well. And those things are freely available now. That's the cool thing about some of these these MOOCs and those sorts of things. You can go and work on the tools, whether that's journey mapping or listening or whatever it is, open-ended questioning, putting a workshop together. These are all, design thinking. These are all cool things you can learn. But the first thing you need to sort of almost, stand in front of the mirror and say that you're going on a journey that's going to teach you a lot about how little you know. I think that's the underlying challenge you need to set for yourself. And I wish I'd had it earlier, because I reckon that I did some disastrous things as just assuming that I had the answer at some point in my career. So being open to that, position yourself as somebody who's going to champion the voice of the employee in whatever you do, and then once you've done that, you can start to step into maybe leading or designing a process. And hopefully then you start to get that reputation as somebody who really does kind of add some value to that experience, in much the same as user experience and customer experience professionals do. There's obvious paths to this stuff, and we see a lot of organizational development people feel very comfortable in the space. In fact, they've been doing it for years in some ways. But those people who love facilitation, workshopping, brainstorming, these are people who are naturally sort of predisposed to this stuff, I suppose. But I wouldn't limit it to those sorts of people. I think it's a skill that we're all going to have today in a greater or lesser degree if we're going to respond to the new world of work. So the advice is to go out and experience and play with this stuff in whatever capacity. And if you love it, just learn another thing. Stay curious.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that sort of that concept of humble curiosity, right?
Yeah, this and I'm a big fan of Edgar Schein, who talks about humble in the way that he certainly suggests we should work on across, whether it's consulting or listening or whatever it is, and that humility is just it's another sort of word for assuming that somebody knows more than you. Being completely open to the fact that you may not know the answer to something, and they sort of putting yourself out there, but not being afraid to view, but at the same time, willing to absorb that something else is different. So I think that's just the ultimate skill, I suppose.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you had to look back on everything we've discussed, and you had to say there's one thing that you'd ask our listeners to take away and implement in their own leadership, what would that one thing be?
It's not going to be surprising, but we're back to the self-awareness thing. To really challenge themselves to kind of find all the moments where they could have done something differently, or that something. It's a deep reflection behavior. And I suppose the best way to do that is kind of create enough safety to kind of question you. So if there's one thing I'd ask people to do, is to ask people to tell them when they're wrong. So if I went to my team and I said, I'm going to have a conversation about something, and I want you to tell me if you think that I'm wrong, and I really want to, and I really encourage you to create that safety, then it's amazing what can just come out of that one experience, both in terms of your leadership, but equally the solution that you build.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think being able to receive that feedback in a positive way is so important for the employee experience throughout an organization as well.
Yeah. And it's all the time. So, I'm sure you've had the same thing, Sally. It's that first design or that first idea can seem so silly, 3 weeks later. But at the same time, as you're leaving this thing open, it's you're able to influence after the fact as well. The thing's not done once it's delivered. It's only the start of being done, and it's live and sometimes irrelevant after 3-4 weeks or whatever it is, or 3-4 years or whatever. And being completely unattached to that. To the thing changing is a factor of self-awareness in itself,
Yeah, and it's as you say, an iterative process. But if you can enjoy the process, it makes it you just learn so much. So I agree with you. I enjoy it as well. And Steve, tell me, how can our listeners connect with you and hear more from you in the future?
So I suppose LinkedIn is the way that most of us will connect, these days. And feel free to go onto LinkedIn, connect with me, engage. I'm fairly active on that platform. But equally, if you want to reach out to me at Discovery, it's also fine. But LinkedIn is probably my most sort of active engagement with people who I'm not really sort of connected with in terms of professionally yet. But I love to connect with people. I love to exchange ideas and to experiment with big things, that are affecting the world and the markets and our businesses. So very open to connecting.
Okay, fantastic. I'll post the link alongside with this. Thank you so much for your time today, Steve. I really appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Sally. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and all the best for the rest of the week.